Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sandy Allnock, and today I'm going to talk about my friend Leonardo da Vinci. And I say my friend because I think if I had been alive back during the Renaissance, I would have been best friends with him. He was the quintessential Renaissance man. He loved all the things art and nature and anatomy and engineering and just all the things. Then he did drawings and paintings, and he was just a prolific human. And I kind of feel like I walk in his shoes, and I give myself permission to do all the things because he did all the things and he was amazing. So maybe I can do that too. But today I want to talk about something specific. When I was in college, I was admiring some of his drawings, and he drew in both pen and ink and in Metalpoint, or sometimes called Silverpoint. And I didn't know what that was. I wasn't given access to the tools or anything at the time, but I remember my art history professor saying that these drawings didn't look like they do now when we look at them. They looked very different because they've oxidized, because they're drawn with metal. And I thought, what did they look like when Da Vinci drew them? And today I'm going to provide you with an example, several examples, a bunch of drawings that I've tried in Metalpoint. And I want to show you what I learned about what Da Vinci saw when he did his sketches. If you've ever visited a gallery and seen a Da Vinci display, then there's some things that you'll notice right off the bat. First is the color. It's not a normal, what we think of as a graphite drawing in black and white. It has a sepia tone to it. Sometimes it's more brownish, like reddish brown. Sometimes it's more of a greenish brown color. But there can be very soft edges that you can create with this medium, and you can also do line work. You can do cross hatching. There's all different kinds of techniques, but the surface of it is not movable. So you could rub on the paper. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to touch these, but you could touch it and nothing will move. It's not like graphite sitting on the surface of the paper that way. And there's just all the drawing techniques that you can use in drawing with a pencil, you can use here, except for blending. You need to kind of find different ways to blend by using different pressure. And I'll talk about that in some of my examples. But you'll notice that some of these drawings have really darkness to them. I don't know enough specifically about all of them to know what Da Vinci saw necessarily when he did it, because I found different results from my different experiments. But he would not have seen all this color. This color didn't happen until after everything oxidized. Now, this is a little drawing that I absolutely loved, these little crabbies, and it inspired me. One of the examples at the end of this video, I'm going to take you out to the beach with me, and we're going to go draw some rocks, because he had a bunch of drawings in which he drew rocks. I didn't find any Metalpoint that he did with rocks, but we'll talk a little bit more about things that he told artists about being prepared to go out and do sketches. But let's get back to this one. This is one of my absolute favorites that I saw that I remember just blew my mind in college. I was studying perspective, and this told me so much about how he thought through the perspective when he did one of his paintings. And this was a sketch that was done prior to a painting, and he worked out where all the lines would be, where his vanishing points would be, and where all the elements would come in. And that's like crazy thinking, I know, for a lot of people, but this really helped me to see how he thought through things. But would he have seen this cacophony? Let me show you what I mean by this. When he was doing his drawing, he would have done it on a prepared piece of paper, and that's what this is. It's been prepared already. I'll talk about that in a moment. But he would have started drawing in some perspective lines to just give himself some overall guidelines so the whole picture starts to hold together. He was working out of his head for a lot of things. So he's trying to say, okay, if I put a building here and if I put a stairway there, what's going to happen to it perspective-wise? And he's working that out in his sketch ahead of time. And with something like this, if you do very light lines in Silverpoint, just barely touching the surface, the artist can see them. But then when you start putting in the actual elements in the drawing, you just use more pressure and you end up with more value on the paper. And you still have all those lines, though. All those little perspective lines are still there. We're used to, in our modern day, just being able to take an eraser and get rid of anything that's in the way of seeing the drawing because we're trying to think of it as a finished drawing. He would have seen, I'm assuming, a gray line drawing in his day, and he would have been able to see very clearly that there were some lines that disappeared into the paper because the other lines that are darker are jumping out because they're more important. So he might put figures in and decide where they were going to go, and they're laid over top of something else because he had no eraser. That's why that perspective drawing looks so crazy, because all of it's laid on top of each other. But in his moment, when he was sketching it all out, he probably would have seen something similar to this, in which, you know, the artist knows what they were heading for. They know what they were working out. And this one I did in like 5 minutes, so don't hold me to any Da Vinci standards, but I wanted you to get an idea of what the artist saw when he was doing his drawing. Da Vinci was as much a proponent of regular sketching as I am. Sketch all the time, sketch from life, have a sketchbook with you. And there was one note in his writings where he specifically says, always take a small booklet with you with sheets that have been prepared with bone meal, and note your observations in haste with a silver pen. So he would prepare his pages with a bone meal mixture, mixed it with a bunch of other things. I'm not going to be doing that, but I'm going to be using a Silverpoint ground in order to prepare a sketchbook page that we're going to take out to the beach. But I also want to show you some other things that I've done here in the studio with Silverpoint. So I'm going to show you the different Silverpoint tools that I have. One is the end of my Silverpoint brush. And that one is ethergraph. It's not technically silver, and nothing happens on untreated paper. The Cretacolor Silverpoint pencil, again, you get divots in the paper, but that's really all. A sterling Silverpoint. So this is actual silver, and it fits in my lead holder, my normal lead holder. You don't have to buy a special one if you have a lead holder already. And then there's this gold one. Now the gold one is like $99 for this little sliver of gold. And I put it in a cheap mechanical pencil, which felt sacrilegious. Oy, oy, oy. But this gold will last me forever. Like I might leave it to someone in my will or something because it's $99 worth of gold in there. So hopefully if anything ever happens to me, somebody claims that pencil and doesn't just toss it thinking it's a cheap one. But I'm going to be using some Silverpoint drawing ground to prepare this to take out for a sketch as per Da Vinci's advice. And once it's dry, you know, generally 24 hours, it's like gesso. You want to let it dry completely, especially if you're drawing with it in this Silverpoint or Metalpoint, because you could otherwise just be carving into the surface. And what you want is for the metal to sit on top of the surface. So spread it really, really thin. You don't want thick coats. So if you want to do 2 coats, you can do 2 thin ones rather than one big thick one, and then set it aside to completely dry. And we'll get back to the beach with this one in a little bit. I want to take a slight detour to tell you about something that I bet you Leonardo would have wished he had. And I think he probably would have been jealous of our graphite pencils, but this is not that. I sit here at my desk and I am working for hours and hours a day on Silverpoint drawings, graphite drawings, color pencil, watercolors, carving linoleum, whatever the art is that's on my desk that day. I'm paying no attention to the clock. I'm paying no attention to my posture. Sorry, Mom. And when I get up, I look and sound a lot like my dad did when I was a kid, and my sisters used to laugh, and we'd make fun of him holding his back and making the groany noises. And now that's me. And it might be you as well. And it might have been Leonardo for all we know. Well, I want to introduce you to Bob and Brad, the sponsors of this video. And normally I don't accept sponsorships on this channel, but in this case, I made an exception because I got an email from them asking if I'd like to try their easy back massager. And I literally wrote back to them and said, "How did you know my back was hurting?" We had a conversation and they sent me the massager. And typically I'm skeptical of these kinds of things. How can a little machine help me feel better? But this one actually has done that. In just a couple of days, I'm feeling a little bit looser. The massage nubby things go clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever way feels better. You can have the heat on for the red lights or the heat off without. And there's a little cover that will dampen the amount of heat or the amount of pressure. This thing will turn off every 15 minutes. So it serves as a reminder to me if I've restarted it a couple of times that maybe I should get up off my chair and do a little stretching. You can go to the link in the doobly doo down below this video. There's a coupon code there for 10% off. If you're interested in trying this out and seeing if it helps your back like it's helping mine. And then there's this art coated paper that I read about on the interwebs that said this is good for drawing with Silverpoint. And it feels a little bit, it's not, but it feels a little bit like a UPO, almost synthetic, perhaps. Not really sure exactly what's going on with the paper, but it came in brown wrapping. So there's that. It wasn't like in a package that had any detail about the product on it, but it's by Legion, who is the same company that makes my favorite Stonehenge drawing paper. So I decided to try some of it. And with it, I can get a really soft coverage of the paper if I take it really slowly. And with Silverpoint, you really do generally want to go slowly if you want that kind of refined look. Although Da Vinci said draw quickly, but just going back and forth with it or in circles. There's different techniques you can try with it. This is the Cretacolor Silver Point, and that tip is silver. It's not replaceable. So once you wear it down, it's gone, but it's very cheap and it's promoted as something you use with oil pastels to scratch lines into. It's not even promoted as Silver Point, but it will work as Silver Point, and it's really cheap if you want to try Silver Point and just see what you think of it. And you could also try it with a regular gesso, so you don't even have to buy the Silver Point gesso, but I bought the Silver Point just because it's made for it, so why not? But here I'm going back in with the silver and speeding it up. You can see that I'm just kind of going in circles and going back and forth and layering the silver over top of it to try to darken it. And I'm trying to constantly go back and add more depth around the outside of the eyes, but Silver Point doesn't go black, which is what I'm really curious to watch as these drawings age and as they oxidize. Are the places that I got closer to black, the darker places, are they going to go kind of blackish the way that the sepia tone drawings of Da Vinci did? Or do I have to wait 200 years for it? I don't know. I'm hoping that, once I get this drawing finished, if I frame it, I want to put a note on the back of it, like a letter to the person who ends up with it, and just say, watch this for 100 years and see what happens to it. Cause I drew it with this on this date. And I want to give somebody some clue as to what I was doing, what I was testing for. So I can't wait to get this little tarsier done. Now, he's done as an ode to another YouTube video by a wonderful Silverpoint artist. And I don't know his name, but he has like just a couple of random videos online. And I highly recommend watching it if you want to see some amazing Silverpoint. He does his with some gold. Somehow he got his gold to show up. And I wish I knew who he was so I could find out more about his technique, because you could see in his drawing more gold than I can see in mine, because mine just the gold, silver, copper, all of it looks gray as it starts out. So let me show you the examples that I did 6 months ago that I was waiting to see if anything happened to them. This one is on some like just generic backer board. And just for fun, I tried drawing on a chunk of it, and it actually worked with no page prep on it. There's no grounds on it. And you can see it kind of works. It's not very pleasant to draw on. It feels like it drags a lot. It was not an easy drawing to do, but I could get a rendering done. I mean, like you could do something on it. So if you get one of these tools and you just want to try it without preparing some paper, try the different stuff you have in your studio and see if you find something that works. It doesn't work like that on a lot of other papers. So then we have this fish that I drew. I never decided which way was up. And it's on, I believe, a hot press watercolor paper with grounds on it. And in the background, I can see stripes. I don't know how much you can see there. Um, but it's stripes from not having smoothed out my grounds very well. So you can really see that in there. I worked really hard to try to get some of that darkness in there. You can see how much silver I've deposited on the paper by quite how shiny it is all over. And I did get some depth to it, but it was, again, a ton of work to try to get it that dark. I wanted to try a landscape from nature, and while I didn't do this one outside as Da Vinci instructed, because it took me forever to cover all that area, this one is done on cold press watercolor paper with the grounds on it. And I am just dying to see this one oxidize someday and see what color all of this turns, because this one was done primarily in the copper. And then this one is done on, again, a cold press watercolor paper with the Silverpoint grounds on it. The drawing came out lovely. You can see there's some places where it got thicker, so there's more of that silverness in it. And again, I can't wait for all of these to just start to oxidize. I want to see what happens to them. So I'm just leaving them all out in the sunshine and trying to get as much light on them as I can. I don't know if anything else will help to get them to changeo presto so I can see in my lifetime what happens to them. 24 hours after my page was prepared, I could test it out, make sure everything's going to work when I go to the beach. And you can see the lines are actually leaving pigment behind instead of just leaving divots in the paper, which they did in that top left section. So this is going to be ready to go and draw on. And let's head out to the beach. This is out at the Browns Point Lighthouse down near me, down on the waterfront, the Puget Sound. And off to the left, there's a gajillion fishermen, like a gajillion. I think they were having a competition or something. I'm not really sure. I was down on this side, which seemed to at least have the fewest people. And there were people yelling things in other languages that I didn't know what they were yelling. So I've tried to cut out those bits of audio so that in case they were yelling something obscene, I have no idea what they were doing. But I just sat there trying to draw, and I was looking for crabs because I really wanted to draw a crab. I thought that would be fun, but I had seen some pen and ink sketches he did of rocks. So Da Vinci was still the inspiration to head down here, even though I was hoping for crabs. Rocks were second best. And on this paper, I got a really rough surface because I didn't sand it. You can sand the surface of this and make it much smoother if you would like. And I want to try that and see if I get a different kind of line, like what happens. Because this rough paper seemed to scrape off enough of the metal pigment off the end of the point that I actually got a decent amount of value in there. It still wasn't black. It's not my 9B that I love, but you know, it did work better than some of the others. It's possible my first attempts to put ground down were just maybe not great, and I've learned since then and done a better job. But here you can see that you can rub your finger right across your drawing and nothing will move because this is not pencil, it's not graphite. But look, we didn't get a crab, but we got a seal. The seal kept coming by and visiting over and over and over again. I don't know if he was waiting to like yell at one of the fishermen for stealing his breakfast. Not really sure what he was doing, but he just kept bobbing his head up every once in a while, checking out what was going on shore. So there is the scene that I was sketching with the lighthouse up there and drawing my rocks. This is later on in the sketch. I finally got more on the page. I even put in some of the fishermen and just adding in a few details into the drawing. And the lighthouse, unfortunately, I didn't start it at the right place, so I didn't get much of the lighthouse in there, just the fence around the bottom portion of it. But I included the hillside across the way, across the other side of the sound. And got my finished drawing. So while I give you an update on how the tarsier is coming, because I'm putting in his background, I'll just kind of give you my overall. If you want to try Silverpoint, I would recommend starting with the Cretacolor pencil. It's really cheap. And if you use it on something with gesso, like sanded gesso, I think would work best on whatever paper. You can use just regular watercolor paper or something. Try it on that. Try it on some Yupo, see if you like that. If you like it more and you want to get into it further, then if you've got a lead holder, the stick of silver that I got was not all that expensive. I think it was $20 or $30 for that, and it lasts forever. It's not like graphite, it's not going to disappear from your pencil. It's going to last a long time. The gold one I have yet to endorse because that seems like $99 for a stick of that, and I can't make it look like gold. I don't know. We'll see. I might have wasted my money on that, but it's a mechanical pencil worth its weight in gold. That is for sure. So I will update you in the future if I do more on Silverpoint, and especially if I figured out that gold thing, because I really want to make that happen. See the link in the doobly doo and go see that other guy's tarsier drawing because it's amazing. And I will see you guys again soon. Take care. Bye.